Good morning to our lecture and to all my beloved friends here. Before I start, I would like to ask you a question. Have you heard of video games? Probably you guys have heard of video games, right? And in this case, I will talk about game causing violence. I'm a gamer myself, and obviously I don't support any violence, but does the game that I or we play actually lead us to violence? That's what I'm trying to talk about. Is video game causing violence? I will share you how the media always pointing out about violence game and frame the gamers to be more violent. And I will give you guys some proof that video games actually doesn't give violence and giving you guys how to prevent the video game cause violence things. Let's start with the first, which is the history of game causes violence. Firstly, it's all happened because of one company. Game Causes Violence started with a game released in 1976 when a game called Death Race was released. The objective of the game is that player becomes a grim reaper with cars that need to kill as many pedestrians as possible. Despite the graphic of the game at the time, this concerned a lot of parents because this arcade game is actually played with a steering wheel, so it feels like the player is actually getting fantasy to kill people with a car. That leads to the company itself taking the Death Race off the market. Second case that makes history repeat was after the game called Mortal Kombat released in 1993. This game concerned parents and the society more because it's actually the first game to feature lifelike realistic violence. A year after the game release, a lot of protest toward the company to the game of the market. The company reviews it and created Entertainment Software Rating Board or ESRB, which happened to be the history of the Creation gaming rating. After that, in 1997, Jack Thompson, activist from anti-video games, sued the video games community and company with the highest charge, claiming that mass shooting happened because of video games. On behalf of parents that the children killed in the Heath High School in 1997. The evidence from Jack Thompson says that the culprit of the shooting played various games that include Doom, Redneck Rampage, and Resident Evil. A lot of controversy happened like when GTA released and every time new Mortal Kombat release, it always bring a debate to whether the game should actually release or not. Sounds like video game are making people violence, right? Let's move on to the next point. So, the second point is, does game actually lead people to violence? It's always debate that does game lead people to violence or not. There are always two sides of story, and this story also has two sides, which people that agree and people that don't agree. To that, let's focus on the agree side on this story. In 2011, scientists claimed that video games can lead to world aggression. And the scientists show the aggression of a video game in a compilation like this.
Timeless, after all.
Really aggressive, right? The violence of a video game was described as Justice Samuel is exaggerated. He said people in video games are killed with a lot of tools, including hammer, chainsaw, and etc. And he said the people inside of the video games are screaming for help, while the players are murdering them. Victims are cut, burned, tortured. There are always people that were in the research of whether video game caused real-life aggression. Show a shocking result to the scientists. During a research of completing the sentence, the volunteers are shown words that need to be filled with their imagination. When volunteers choose aggressive words such as finishing this word as murder instead of mother, from this, the scientists assume that they are more aggressive in real life. And also, not only it leads to real life aggression, they also stated that people who are exposed to video game are more affected by gambling much more. But there are also scientists that believe that games did not make people violent or more aggressive in the real world. In fact, video games made to fulfill fantasy. Having fun makes people a better thinker by giving a hard puzzle to solve in the game. And in this pandemic, absolutely bringing people together was still maintaining social distancing. I have clips on the news games that stream, and I want you guys to see if these clips are giving you guys the urge to do aggression.
Come back here, Corpse. He didn't see. Turn this against me.
They are having fun, right? Despite the 2018 World Health Organization saying that gaming is an addiction and stated as a mental health problem, they actually encourage people to play video games now because of the pandemic. So, does game and violence real-life aggression are connected? The answer is no. From recent studies led by Aaron Drummond in New Zealand Massey University, he re-researched 28 research from the past that tried to look into the link between video games and real-life aggression, with a special method that is known as meta-analysis. A new report published by a Royal Society Open Society found that if these studies were bundled together, they showed a minuscule positive relation between video games and real-life aggression. The report said, hence, nowadays our current research does not support the hypothesis that video games cause violence. Beyond a variety of studies included in the research in 2008, there's only a small positive correlation between video games and real-life aggression. The one common argument used to blame video games accumulated over time, but this study found no evidence for such that. In fact, it was the opposite. They write that the long-term side effects of playing video games are so rare that it can be said also near zero. In 2019, after a mass shooting that killed 31 people and more injured, a lot of politicians, including the US president, blamed video games.
We must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace. It is too easy today for troubled youth to surround themselves with a culture that celebrates violence. We must stop or substantially reduce this, and it has to begin immediately.
Mr. Trump's voice echoed and heard by the Patrick and Kevin McCarthy, and said the same thing.
But the idea of these video games to dehumanize individuals, to have a game of shooting individuals and others, I've always felt that is a problem for future generations and others.
Chris Ferguson, a psychology professor at Stetson University, said the proof of video game is not linked with violence is there, and the statistic is the same with the conclusive of a banana causing suicide. The Supreme Court has also rejected the idea that it should to ban all violent or mature games to be sold in 2011. The court said that the evidence is in fact doesn't relate it at all. In fact, every court in California rejected the video game cause violence idea for good thing. Shortly after the Mr. Trump's statement about video game, the hashtag video games are not to blame trending on Twitter, with mocking the idea of game causing violence. Indeed, if games actually cause violence, stated by newsy countries like South Korea and Japan that have huge gaming communities, supposed to be affected more than the United States. But Japan and South Korea, which these countries are very strict in gun ownership and have the highest video games community, have lower crime shooting rates than America. In America, people that committed mass shooting are usually identified as gamers, but James Ivory, who studied media and video games at Virginia Tech, said that of course there will be always people pointing out to blame video games. It's because video games are something new and something ubiquitous in our society, especially among the guys, who are much more likely to commit mass shooting. Let's get to the point on how to make the game fun and not give you guys the urge of real-life aggression. How to decrease the impact of mature games. It's all back to the rating system. The gaming rating system is divided into 7 ratings. The first one is EC, or early childhood, which the game content inside is usually cartoons games and non-puzzle games, and easy games. The second one is E, everyone. The game is open for anyone to all age to play. The next one is E10 plus, everyone older than 10 years old. T or teen, this one is a little bit tricky because in all countries they have different teenage, but specifically in this one, it's supposed to be 30 years old or older. M or mature 17, usually a game with a lot of gore and story dependent, is rated with this game, where the player usually can choose whether to be bad or good guy. Same as Detroit Become Human, where the player playing as an artificial intelligent robot and choose whether they want to be a good or bad robot. Last one is AO, adult only 18 plus, which is the game with a lot of pornography content such as GTA 5. And the last one is RP or rating pending. So this one gives to a game that has been released but doesn't have rating system. But the ESRB recommended that people under 18 years old not to buy the game until the game is released. How to find this age rating system? It's really simple. In a physical game, they should be in front of the cover like this, but sometimes they put it in the back. But the majority of it should be put in the front. The cover for the digital game, such as buying from Steam, Riot Games, Epic Games, and etc., they usually put in the description box of the games. How accurate are these ratings? Since the style of parenting of every parent is different, ESRB came up with guidelines to help them in picking up games for their children. Parents can let their children to play a game that rated higher than their age. A lot of guidelines ESRB are ready to help. For example, if you know Batman, a lot of comics and their films are actually rated mature, but the Lego version of this film or games usually rated E10+. It's because usually Lego movie doesn't have swear words, sex, or gratuitous violence. Back before 2017, only 30% of parents knew about age rating. But the fact that ESRB keeps promoting and giving the information about it, its drastic change in 2017 that 83% parents are aware, and 73% of parents use their guidelines before purchasing a game for their son. In conclusion, whether a video game causes violence or not depends on the individual. You cannot say that video game causes violence because of one case of violence linked to a video game. In this case, video game is a tool which either a person can use it for good or bad thing. It depends on individual. Same as a knife. Some people think knife is just a survival kit. Some people may say it's utensil. And some psychopath probably say it's the perfect tool for killing. With all my respect to everyone, thank you.